So, first on the agenda, we'll take a look at the minutes from last week that were sent. I didn't send around. Apologize for that, but I have a copy in front of you if you just want to take a second to review those and let me know if there's any questions or issues or comments. Nice.
It's haunted.
Move to accept as written.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. We did, since last week, we did have one correction submitted by the fire chief for his, if you remember last week, we talked a little bit about his clerk, the hours that he was requesting for his clerk. He had submitted them for 20 hours, and then he thought he would reduce it by 1 hour a week to make it not a benefits eligible position. So I updated that total today. It knocks, I don't know, a couple $100 off that number. So the clerical line, it's still an increase because he's still going from his proposal or his request is to go from 15 hours to 19 hours, but it is less than what he had submitted to us last week. So that's updated. And then I did create a dummy line if we do decide to proceed with adding a separate line for just medical supplies to kind of keep track of that. So that's
There's no word though on if those medical supplies are in the budget erroneously twice or on purpose twice.
I haven't had time to follow up with
Okay.
that. Obviously, the chief's been a little busy the past few days,
yeah.
and you know, and
Since
so
I haven't heard much traffic.
I know, I know.
Scanners. And,
so anyway, so yeah, I also wanted to follow up with Barbara to see if she could give me some data on I don't know how closely she can break it down as far as what would be considered a medical supply bill. Maybe we have to look at the vendors and try to figure it out from the vendor name. But we'll try to get a better handle on that going forward.
they get some of their medicines type things from Jordan. Well, pre-IDMC.
Yeah, but
And other supplies come in from other places.
right. But I know he was saying that certain things they have to obviously buy to
Right.
stock the
Yeah.
vehicles, and the number has been going up pretty substantially due to the number of calls going up substantially. So we kind of wanted to get a better handle on that stuff. So anyway, that's where we stand on the budget so far. So Steve, you went to the budget meeting for Silver
I
Lake.
went to the Silver Lake budget meeting.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome, no problem at
Why
all.
don't you fill us in on what happened?
They had a whole bunch of proposed cuts on different things, at which the school committee voted down a few of them. So mostly everything in the tier 2 cuts. School committee they didn't want to do that. And in the tier 1, they had them separated out by line number where they could do savings. And there's the transportation, they didn't, I put an X there on the sheet so they should denote that one didn't fly through
Okay.
the budget process.
Okay.
And our rep from Plympton,
Maureen?
not Maureen, the other guy,
Jason?
Jason, yeah.
Okay.
He kept a running tally of how much of everything was there,
Okay.
which I didn't copy down, but, and I
So you
haven't totaled these up
You're
yet.
not sure how much they've agreed to decrease the budget by?
Was it 291,000?
It was more, yeah, some in that vicinity, because there was $250,000 in there somewhere.
Okay.
He was talking about at least 250, so.
Okay.
291 maybe.
I think Charlie from Halifax was hoping for a little bit more savings.
Of course, yes, he was.
So I'm just gonna put some cuts were made.
Yep. I can tally this out. As soon as I find my phone.
I'll just write around
Yeah.
approximately.
Did he put that in that email?
I
to
thought
use?
it said 291.
291,000.
And originally they had wanted something like 490, was it?
Yeah, 291 was proposed at
And
the
they were
meeting,
looking
and they were
for
looking
four.
for at least a 400,000. This is the Halifax Finance Committee. So I'm sure, as
Right.
typical, we go back and forth a couple of times with them, and we'll play the game and see where we wind up.
And yet, even after they took the cuts, every one of their line items on this page here is an increase,
Yes.
so. Just, it wouldn't be as much.
And Eric, you and Steve weren't here. I had requested a little bit more information from the superintendent and the finance person with respect to they had indicated last week that there were some salaries that they were reducing, people that were moving on for retirement, so I'd asked for a little bit more information about that. And also I wanted to know what the average salary was of a teacher at the Dennett School. 'Cause
They get back to you with it?
they did actually. So she got back to us at 4:00. Yeah. So the staffing cuts for the 4 positions they're removing are roughly $371,000. They are proposing for, well, it's 5 people, but it's 4 FTEs at approximately $251,000. So roughly a 120 difference. And then the average salary at the Dennett is approximately $65,000. Are there any other items that anybody wants to bring up or discuss before, any questions before our first meeting this evening, which should be happening shortly? No?
No?
You guys are a tough committee. Next week's meeting, a week from tonight, I should be here, but there's a possibility I won't be. I'm flying back that day. I'll be in North Carolina, so just in case I'm not, just wanted you to know ahead of time. That's why I sent out the meeting notice today, which those of you who have access to email, you should have received it. Just a heads up in case I don't show up.
Does anyone know how to get into this?
No, it's top secret. That's good. I can leave you.
Oh, we could just print and bring hard copies if he's not gonna be here.
I can leave you the
Explain it
passwords.
to Eric.
He needs to explain it to me. I'm sure he's much more talented at it than I am. So. Do you have anything you want to say to us, or since you're off camera, the voice from off camera? You picked a good seat.
Strategic.
Be careful,
You can
watch
still
him.
catch her? All right. She's learned very quickly, though, isn't it?
So I was wondering for next year, how we want the process to proceed as far as budgeting. I just want to make sure that this committee feels like you're getting what you need from me in my role here. While at the same time trying to maintain that balance. I'm not looking to upset the apple cart. If you're happy with the current process as it's currently done.
Speaking on behalf of the committee, if you want to present us with a budget and just ask us to give you a thumbs up, we're good.
How could you, like, how is
How could it be done
Yeah, how
differently?
could it be done differently?
So, to use the town that I worked for prior, Walpole as an example, typically what they would do there, the town administrator would send out all the budget paperwork, similar to what your committee does, only in this case it would come from me. And I would ask everybody to turn in their budgets to me. We'd probably have to bump it back a few weeks so that it didn't interfere with the timing for town meeting prep. And then I would go through each budget, meet with people as I needed to kind of figure things out. And then I would submit everything to your committee with an additional column that would say TA recommendation. So my recommendation might be slightly lower than what a particular department was requesting. It might be the same. Or if we, had something unexpected, like needed to add a staff member or something, it might actually be higher in some rare instances. And then typically what a lot of places do is we would set up our schedule together, and I would present the majority of the budgets to this committee, unless it was a large one. Like obviously, school committee budgets, those are kind of, you need those folks here to present all the specifics on that. And usually some of the big ones like police and fire would still make their direct presentation to this group. But for some of the smaller ones, like the different townhouse departmental budgets and things like that, it would be me meeting with the committee as opposed to bringing in, a whole team of department heads for different ones. And then if there was anything specific that we needed, I would go back and get it from those folks. So it's basically just, it adds an additional layer, but I think it's helpful in some respects, especially when it comes to long-term planning for the town. If I know that there are different projects or different goals, coming down the pipeline, I think it would be helpful for me personally to be a little bit more in touch with what's going on with the budgets from the different departments.
I think you'd also have probably a better feel, like of when people come to you, you'll say, oh yeah, I knew that, I was expecting that.
Exactly,
or,
as opposed to hearing things after the fact.
And us not really knowing what's going on too, and we have to sort of have it all try
exactly, and kind of navigate through it.
I think that sounds
and
wonderful.
so I'm more than willing to participate more in the process, and if you're happy unrolling it that way for next year, we could certainly move ahead that way. I just don't want to step on any toes either, but I am here, and I feel like it makes sense long-term for planning and
Absolutely.
for us to be more of a team and a united front kind of going into everything.
Absolutely, and you can certainly chase down the department heads or whatever with
Right.
questions
Right, and then
more easily than we could.
right, and then it makes your group a little bit more advisory and sort of financial oversight, and takes you out of some of the minutia in the day-to-day, that kind of thing. So if this group is happy to proceed that way, we can certainly, before budget time starts winding up next year, I could reach out and we could put everything together and make sure that everyone's questions are going to be answered and everything, and then I would just be coming to all your meetings.
We'll have a couple of open seats this
Okay.
year, so it probably makes sense to have those discussions again
Okay,
when we
and
have
just
our
kind of
reorganization
revisit.
meeting in July,
Okay, sounds good.
and then we can set up a timeline for how we want to proceed going forward.
I think that sounds
But,
good.
On the surface, that sounds great.
Okay.
294, 748 was the,
294, 748.
was the,
Thank you.
what they removed.
They removed that much. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and we get 12% of that, so that's roughly $35,000.
At that go around,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Is Tara here? Or?
Mr. Thompson?
Love to.
Yeah, he's the youngest, he can go.
Hi there.
Hi.
Behind things here. Let's see.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
It's not
Freezing.
snowing yet.
I know, I'm still cold though, in my house not having heat for so long.
When did you get fouled out?
Yesterday, yeah, Nate and I were competing for being the last ones to get power.
Comcast was outside my driveway. Just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah.
The day before is when I
But,
found it.
yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
we'll actually have internet by
My
the
house got
end
down
of
to
the day.
48 degrees.
We have a generator. that came
We
on
had a
part time.
generator and just, but it's still, we shut it off and
Yeah.
we heated it up in my bedroom till like 60. So I'm still cold.
After my kids left, I invested in a standby generator.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I forfeited all presents from now until we get
Hey,
a whole house generator
Yeah.
and a wood stove.
you campaigning for Father of the Year over there after the kids left? You...
That's what my kids come back and tell me, that, yeah, you waited till we were gone, and then you bought a whole house generator. Well, they wouldn't go out and fetch water out of the pool to do it
All right.
for necessity.
No, my neighbor was draining his hot tub for that reason. So. Anyway, welcome.
Hi. So I guess I'll start by saying the difference between last year and this year and previous years. So we usually go from like 3 elections one year to 2 elections to 1 election depending on the state election. So we have 3 elections this year, and on average they cost about a little more than $3,000 for each election. So it's a good number to sort of have in your head. But this year, compared to 2 years ago, we now have early voting. So that's another change in our budget when we get to elections. I'll get to that. So 2 years ago, we had early voting only for one of the state elections because that's when the legislature passed the bill. So we only had early voting for the November election, and it's 10 days prior to the election. What happened 2 years ago was our first time doing it. So we were trying to figure out the process and how that was going to happen. And as opposed to other towns all over the 351 towns in Massachusetts, I opted to not be open extended hours because we've never done this before. I know that the voters who come to vote will come to vote. They'll make it there. I didn't think it was going to make a difference between having extended hours. They were all happy that it was more than one day. Everybody was pretty appreciative that happened, that early voting happened. I set up one clerk for check-in and Tricia as my assistant as the checkout person, which worked fine, except that I lost her for the 2 weeks prior to me preparing for a state election. So in my office here, it was a nightmare for me to have to process absentee ballots, getting them out, getting them in, the regular phone calls, the regular work that we have to keep up with. So I've opted to have 2 election workers, and they would start at the base pay, 2 election workers in that room. And then Tricia and I can field anything that happens, the questions and so forth, around our regular work. So as far as I know, there is going to be early voting prior to the primary, but we haven't actually been given the actual, yes or no, that they're going to be doing that. The state hasn't given us that information. So I've included it in here, but it may end up being taken out, and that would be for the 2 workers for the extra 10 days prior to the September election. So early voting doesn't happen for town elections. Also, warden and town clerk in the elections as well. I've had Tricia be the warden and my assistant. But again, it's just been getting tricky. We haven't had enough hands because if 2 things happen at the same time, then we need 2 people to help. And Nancy Butler was my predecessor, and she's in the room there. So we're trying to decide who should be the actual warden for that, who should be that role, because they're really in charge of the election room when I'm not available. And she's been cranking the ballots into the box. So we're just trying to figure it out, except knowing that I have been feeling more under the gun for whatever reason. The residents, I don't know if it's because they have more ways to register to vote, and there's so many different means of registering to vote. Sometimes they now think that they did register and they're actually not, so we have to do a lot of research the day of the election, so we don't have to go through all of the paperwork of a provisional ballot. So we're so lucky that our voting place is right here and we have access to the machines. Other towns have to go to schools, for example, and they have to hire wardens at the locations, and they have several precincts. You need a warden at every precinct, and somebody back in the office doing the research. So overall, I still think we're in good shape, and we can really streamline the process the day of the election just by having access. So that's the difference in elections.
So just so I understand,
Yeah.
we're mandated by the early voting to have a set number of hours every day also,
Yeah,
as
so
well as 10 days, or?
So we have to tell the state what we're going to, let the town vote. So what I did was only make it our regular business hours.
Okay.
And I didn't even include Fridays. Some people even were open on Saturdays. But I just didn't think it was necessary.
So we
and
do
I
have
still
some
don't.
flexibility.
Some flexibility, but I'm not going with that. I would rather just have it be our regular business hours.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we do have to do it because the
We
state says
do
we
have to do it. It
Okay.
has to be at least our regular hours,
Yeah,
and we
that's
have
fine.
to tell them in advance. And like I said, I sort of had a theory, and it rang true that the residents were happy it was more than one day, so they
Mhm.
didn't have to do an absentee ballot. They
Mhm.
could get here, so it really worked out. And I wouldn't even say it increased the amount of voters that we had. It just made it easier for the residents.
And when are the early
It's
voting?
always 10 days before the elections.
So it's Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Thursday and Monday night, because that's our regular hour, or hours, 2 hours. So, so I have the calendar of what the dates are. It's just the prior 2 weeks
Okay.
before. And like I said, I'm not even sure about the September election with early voting. They haven't told us yet if we need to do it for primaries.
Okay.
So all of the town clerks have been waiting for that information, but I didn't think, I thought I should put it in just 'cause in
Mhm.
case they say yes.
Okay.
So, and then the only other change from the town clerk's expenses budget is that Tricia and I have both been trying to go to the conferences instead of one covering here in the office. And that's because Tricia and I both now have state computers, so we're both able to process register motor vehicle registrations, online voter registrations. She's going to have been here more than 5 years now, and she's cross-trained now in case I'm not here, which it took a long time. Sometimes we don't touch things, for a whole year. We'll do it once a year, maybe twice a year. So I don't really, with such limited hours here in our office, keeping our regular daily stuff going, I don't have a lot of time to train her on all of the little specifics. So it's been so helpful for a small amount of money for our memberships for the Mass Town Clerks Association. For a couple of days, we have a spring, fall, and winter conference to be able to send her. And even if I can't go, I'd rather stay here and have her go, because the training that you get is very helpful, and I don't really have the time to train her on everything. And they have the best handouts to bring home, and so they're really useful. And it used to be that we would, I'd go and she'd cover the office, or when my predecessor was here, she'd send me, we'd take turns. But there's so many changes now that we can hardly keep up with it. So I have her and I both going to the conferences, and then we'd maybe have coverage in the office for like 5 hours for that day. So those are really the only differences between the last couple of years and this year. So most of my stuff is really self-explanatory, because I really was detailed with the line items.
Can we just quickly go through the lines? from
Yeah.
the
Sure,
one?
yeah. So let's go back to so this is the first one.
Yep. And that's what I heard, that it was
Yep,
2.5.
2.5%.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's self-explanatory. Next.
Certification compensation.
So this happened, I finally got my certification a couple of weeks ago. And I have it's a Mass General law for a Mass Town Clerk when they get certified to have $1,000 additional dollars included in their salary for the year. And I have the law if anybody wants to have
I'm
it.
good with that.
Okay, that's self-explanatory.
I'm just wondering if we'll need to keep that as a separate line item going forward, if it'll just roll over as being part of your salary.
I know, it's up to you. Barbara
The reason
is,
it stays
yeah.
separate is because it's $1,000 a year.
Okay,
It
so
doesn't
that's,
increase by 2%.
so it wouldn't
Right,
be, right,
it
okay.
doesn't.
That's the only reason it's separate. is
So-
It wouldn't
and-
be $1,020 next
Yeah.
year.
yeah, and Barbara has said that I can put it in any way I want to. Like
Okay,
I did
no,
the
this is-
math.
that-
It ends up
that
being
makes-
$19
that makes perfect
a week.
sense.
And I don't like saying that, but it ends up being $19 a week if I put it in weekly. But I can put in for it like quarterly,
No,
you
no,
know,
no, that's
whatever.
good, that's good.
So this is town clerk support staff, and you.
Why is the increase so small?
I did from 21,120 at 2.5. This was a question I had too. 2.5% increase
Mhm.
is what
Wage and personnel?
everybody did, and then can't we do 2%? So I thought I did the math right. Is that all right? 21,120.
What's the, I should know this and I don't, so what's the time limit on the 2%? It's like a step, right?
Step
It's a
raises
step.
for
But
so
But for how many years though?
Until they hit the top of their
Yeah,
range.
so I wrote it here. So,
Oh, so it's
she's
indefinite
at,
until you get to the top?
so
I
she's
think
at
it's 4 or 5 mostly.
Okay, alright,
Yeah.
So for the
that's what it
first
is.
like 3 or 4 years, Trisha went up only by the 2%, that
Yeah.
wage and personnel. So the top of her scale is
Okay,
20, will be 2447.
Okay.
She'll be at 2122.
okay,
I'm
so,
trying to get her up to
No,
the
that's
top
fine.
with all
Yeah.
of this
And I
crap.
think that's what
It's
it
like
is. They're trying to get them to the top of their
22.72
schedule after so many
Oh.
years.
Yeah.
If you go back, is it easy to look at the budget sheet itself? And you look at support staff, it's only gone up 0.5%.
Well,
That's
we
what I was wondering.
is that because we went to putting the election
Yes.
staff in an election support staff?
correct.
We didn't do
different
that.
line item.
We didn't do that last year. I
No,
thought
we
did
did.
that last year. That's what I mean.
We
So if we
took,
did that
we took,
last
but it was only
year-
$500 last year though, so it wasn't a lot of money that we moved out of there last year.
Okay, just make sure you're right, because.
Well, right. I actually have from I did a sheet from where is it?
38.
Let me find it. I left it on my desk.
Well, that's so far away.
Well, hold on. Hold on. Oh, I did. leave it on my
2122,
desk.
2130, it's pretty close. So I think we just do the math differently.
We just switched. I know that we separated things out last year.
And she works how many hours a week? 24?
20.
20?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's within $100,
Uh-huh.
$80 of what she put in, so,
Okay.
okay.
I thought it was right.
Yeah, you
So
see, you
like-
see what I'm saying though, the bottom line, I'm not talking about just the
Yeah,
top,
I know.
assistant
Let me go
clerk.
get my other sheet.
The
'cause
bottom
I
line is
have
only a
something.
5% increase, so unless more things moved out of that, or maybe it's a
Yeah,
different.
no,
because of
I had the
amount
same
of
question.
elections.
I had the same question, I don't know what the,
Does it have something to do with the fact that there's the actual, like, requested
No.
amount, and then the recommended and approved amount, or so much more than the requested?
well, that's because last year we added 2 hours per week, so I
So
think
I
the
don't
original
know if this
request was the
helps.
23, and then when we approved the,
So that
added
those
2
are my
hours, that's how it got
numbers
to
from
26.
the difference from last year, what was raised and appropriated, and what I came up with on these sheets here. And I can pull out last year's town clerk support staff.
Again, you do see what I'm saying.
I do.
So
Yeah,
I don't
but-
know if the hours, maybe the number of
Well-
hours of the extra, not the top line. The top line looks right.
Yeah.
But the things for, like that one from 2120
Okay,
to
so-
22.
So I think what happened was, if you look at my support staff, like for example, some of the payments that went towards Trisha, I had her regular pay if she were to work 20 hours, and then if there was an additional hours, this is the only thing I can think of. So see how it says there was 48 total for the NEMC full day classes for the week that she was in. If she were to get paid for the 20 hours, it's up there. It would have, that's like 52 weeks up top there. And then if there was 28 additional hours for the week she'll be at NEMC. So I separated it out to show the difference. So I'd have to pull out the budget from last year, what I had for details.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy because it shows less. I mean, we're comfortable
Yeah.
with it being less as long as you should pull it out for
But
yourself.
I think it's pulled out,
Just make
I
sure.
think it's been accounted for in the election support staff.
went up a
Yeah,
big amount.
yes, yep. And she's in here, she's right here for September 4th, 13 additional hours. But it's definitely elections, it's not her regular salary.
Okay, so maybe some of the
So
stuff
for
that
every-
was in regular
yeah,
salary
so-
last year,
yeah,
even though
so-
we pulled some out, maybe everything
Yeah,
wasn't
so
pulled out.
every election, so when we get to election support staff, I separated it by the 3 elections, and she's here, for the additional time past, say, like the 20 hours that we're working. Say she works, 5 hours on a Tuesday election, and she's actually here 18. The 5 is still in her regular salary, and the additional hours I've separated out
Okay.
per election.
Okay, so
Does
that's
that make
probably
sense?
that's probably what it was, that some of her
Yeah.
election hours, even last year, were still in her
Yes.
regular
Yeah,
salary, and
yeah.
now they've been pulled out.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
tried to separate them not
That's-
only.
I mean, that's good for us to know, just because when town meeting comes, somebody might put a hold on that line because it's increased by such a lot, 400%.
Yep.
Where we can say,
Yeah.
well, this line, which actually has a larger dollar and amount in it, was only increased by 5%.
We're just gonna say,
Yeah, and I have it. I mean, so you can see. So election 1, election 2, election 3 is probably like almost $1,000 right there
Okay,
in election support staff, because it is actually just elections that she's doing.
Okay.
So.
very
Okay.
good, that's fine.
And I included a couple of, so the NEMC full day classes conference is from Saturday to Thursday. So nothing crosses over. It's 48 hours total, but it's not 8 hours overtime because of the pay period.
mhm.
And she normally would get paid 20 hours. And so I've added in 28 hours at her pay rate
Okay.
and gotten that. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't that give her 48 hours?
It does, but it's
Over
not,
2 pay periods.
Over
it's
Okay,
over
okay.
2 pay periods, so there's not 8 hours of
Right.
overtime because of the way she goes from Saturday to, so one of the days is in the prior pay period. Okay, so town clerk expenses. So a little bit changed in town clerk expenses because of our databases that we were appropriated money for. The contract stated when we first got the contract with them was that for 3 years we have a 1385 maintenance and support agreement with them. So that's in the town clerk expenses, and I've never had that before. A little bit more postage because I always included in my small amount of postage the zoning board of appeals decisions and planning board decisions. Sometimes if something has to go by certified mail, I just felt like I was cutting myself short with my regular regular postage expenses, and then having to send some things out certified mail. So I added in postage for those, and it's hard for me to figure out how much that's gonna be. It just depends on how many we get in through the
Okay.
planning board and zoning board. We print today, for the copies, it says we print today bylaws and copies and miscellaneous. That's because my copy machine / printer is pretty old. And I have to make the copies of all of our bylaws. So I'm trying to save the cost of the whole copy machine that I use for the copier, scanner, and printer, and just have we print today, do them, because I'd have to buy the paper and the ink anyways. So I added that in this year, and I've been using my exact warrants to see what the costs were last year. So what else? And then the other things are just the dues for both Tricia and I to keep our certifications.
Are there more of those this time around? More conferences listed than before, or I mean?
Nope, those are the same ones.
Okay.
But like I said, with both of us going, the fee increase, and actually this I just noticed when I was sitting at my desk, the top one should be $50. So the full membership for Mass Town Clerks Association for me is $35, and to have an associate member it's $15.
Mhm.
So some of the associate memberships have gone up because I've included Tricia. So she'll be getting her certification from the New England
Right, so
class.
that 850 must be new, right?
This is her third year of 850.
Okay. I'm
But
just trying to figure how we added in another couple $1,000, because the 1,400 for the database.
well, so 850 this is the third year of the 850 for her, and that will be it. She'll be getting her certification this year. This other NEMC expenses, some of it is mileage that she's putting in for getting to New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the travel expenses. And the accommodations is the discounted rates, but for both of us. So we're both going now.
Yeah.
And I actually oftentimes I haven't really gotten reimbursed for any of the conferences. I've been just not putting in for it. So mileage,
So the
accommodations.
main increases, other than
Mhm.
adding Tricia to things.
Yep.
This is the first year you're adding Tricia? What did she go with you last year?
No, she didn't go with
Okay.
me last year to the MTCA.
Is the
one.
maintenance and support for the databases?
Yep.
And adding Tricia in?
Yep.
And is that mainly the only other than the, like a little, and the we print today, that's
Yeah,
new?
that we print today. So you can see town clerk expenses from last year, and this also has to do with how we separated things out. Let's just say, since January, I've had $60 in my town clerk expenses too. So I didn't really account for everything in town clerk expenses last year. So because I was separating them out into elections and
It made it
registrations.
confusing to
Yep.
make sure you
Yep.
missed some things
I
last
missed
year.
a lot. So Barbara Gomez said I should put in a transfer now, and I said everything I do from now on is town meeting, town elections, the bylaws. So I haven't had to. I still have money in the elections budget. So
Okay. So
So don't use too much ink.
no, we don't. I know. Well, no, because I can put in for like if I run out of ink, it's on the elections computer.
Oh, right. Right.
It's really separated out.
Okay.
Yep. So,
election and registration.
yes, that is. Okay, hold on. Where are we? What number?
195. So
95. We did that one. That one. 195. Okay. So these are pretty standard every year. So AutoMark machine, that's the ADA compliant machine, the electronic machine that the state mandates us to do. We have to get ballots from them and code the discs that go with it, and it's a state law that we have to have it. Nobody uses it. I think Lisa used it once just to use it because we had it. Printing, that's our paper ballots, specimen ballots, and absentee ballots. And so we don't have that for the state elections, the ballots for state elections, the state provides us with those. Postage, more and more people are doing absentee ballots because they know about it. Because we've always had absentee ballots, but now we've really been promoting it so that people know that they can vote and that it's important, and all they have to do is fill out an absentee application. Postage, census, and dog licenses. So we're including our dog license annual renewal with our census information. We've eliminated an additional mailing from the summer. But I am still processing those in-house because we have about 1,200 houses that we send it to. A lot of other towns send out their lists and have a vendor do it. I have included We Print Today in there because, again, with my copy machine, I'm using legal size paper, and they're perforating the bottom and putting a copy on the back explaining all of the census information. And on the front, I'm having them print the dog license information, and then I run those papers through the regular printer with my processed census information. So that's pretty standard. Election worker expenses, those are for the 3 elections, and it's for providing my election workers with drinks and lunches and dinners, or it's really just lunches, and we just split it if somebody stays a longer shift. So that's for the 3 elections. LHS dog licenses, those are the dog tags that we have to order. So this is kind of new, postage for state computer inactivations. Again, with postage, I always just put a small amount of postage and included everything in, but we're finding that we receive at least 10 to 20 online voter registrations, either through the RMV or people doing online voter registrations. Even if it's a rejection because the Registry of Motor Vehicles doesn't ask the question properly when you go to renew your license. They say, do you want to be a registered voter? And you say yes, but actually you already are a registered voter, and so it comes into a queue into my computer, and I have to verify that all the information is correct. If they've provided us with a better ID, like your license number, then we accept it because it's a better identification number instead of the last 4 digits of your social security number. But we have to send either a rejection or a letter that says we received your letter from the RMV or an online voter registration, you've updated your ID. So we do that weekly now, and that's sort of a new thing. So that's gone up for postage expenses. Inactivations, that's the mass inactivation that we do after we process our census forms, and if somebody hasn't returned their census, they get put on an inactivation list, and that's pretty hefty. It was 500 last year. And then the street lists, we have to send out our data file, and they have to do about 50 to 75 street lists, and we give them to the police and the fire department and the boards, and they are bound books, and they have to process that for us.
Okay. And then this is the support staff
Yeah.
that we talked about earlier a little bit.
Yep. So, and I separated them into 3 elections. So like I said, the September election might not have early voting, but it's pretty standard at every election. I have to have 4 tellers, a warden, 4 tellers, a warden, a final tally clerk, and
Counters.
counters, yeah. So, you know, people ask, why don't we go with electronic voting? It's really only a third of the budget that we would save on the counters, because I still need the same staff for
Mhm.
every election. And adding in the early voting has added 2 additional people plus their time. And the police are always there as well. We always have a policeman.
So it's all the same listings, it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Just 3 separate elections, which I believe I totaled.
Yep.
To 1,
Yep, I have that number too.
yeah.
11,698.
Yep.
Yep. That's just, it's upside down, but that's a list of, I just wanted you to see where it says Board of Registrar hours, on the elections budgets. Most of them include 5 hours of my time and Trish's time while we're working during our regular hours. Those are, for example, the last day to register to vote. So sometimes they go until 8 o'clock, so I would add 6 hours to our Board of Registrar hours, because Trisha and I can handle it while we're in here. We're just here and I'm a Board of Registrar. So whatever the difference in time is that we're mandated to stay open, I've added it and said which one it is. There's 2 Fridays. There's a Friday that we're normally not open, so we have to be here from 9 to 8. So that Board of Registrar hours goes up, but they're pretty similar except the hours, and I included the calendar and highlighted why there are more hours there. And same thing for our regular town election too. So.
And this is your summary page.
Yep, that was just, I took that from last year so you could see the difference.
Yep.
I just thought that would be helpful since we separated everything out. So the flexible one would be the town clerk. It would be up to you guys about the conferences and
Mhm.
having both of us go. Or not, but like I said, I think it's worth it. It saved me to have Trisha be able to talk to everybody who calls with questions without me having to stop, especially with the new databases and codifying the bylaws. I've taken on a couple of more roles, so it's been really helpful to have the state conferences for her to go to. And like I said, I would just send her, and we can look at the classes and even see if they're worthwhile to go, or maybe choose instead of going to all 3 of them. You know, we can really figure out which ones would be most beneficial, so that's up to you.
Okay. So overall, we're looking at about a 16% increase with your total budget, but a lot of that is due to the elections.
Yeah, yep, and not anything that I really want. It's sort of mandated.
Okay, any questions for Tara? Okay, thanks for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Ethan. Hello. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I think you're early. Aren't you early?
What's that?
You're early, right?
I think so. What was the system?
7?
You're 7.
Oh.
You're at 7 o'clock.
Sorry.
How are you guys?
Hey,
Hey, Chief.
Excuse me. How's everything?
Good.
It's been a while.
What's going on in your world? Anything exciting?
You guys read the papers.
Nothing much happened in the last couple
I
of
got a
days.
scanner.
Did you see all the electrical service trucks in the
Yeah.
center of town?
Yes.
We were there the other day. They actually sent over a big tray, well, it was Eversource, a big tray of food. Sandwiches, the wraps, and right in the fridge next door if you guys get hungry.
That was nice of him.
Yeah, it was.
Very nice.
Wait till they get our bill.
All right. Let's see if I can find
I'll
it.
try to get you guys out of here as fast as I can, okay?
Excellent. Especially since our next one's already here, so.
Lisa, you were the only one that was on my first budget cycle. How do I do now?
You've come a long way. Not that you did bad at the beginning, but you were, could
So
tell you
nervous.
were really nervous. Now you come in there like old hat.
Well, every time that FinCom's been good to me, you know?
we
I think I make a
appreciate the
compelling
budget you
argument for my
present.
budget, and as you can see from my budget, I was told to level fund,
Wait a minute.
so that means my patrolmen are looking at a 2% contractual raise with the 2% and everything. And no big warrant articles. There is, however, something new in the budget, and that was, is it up there, emergency dispatch services.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that?
You told us we needed it.
Yeah, and we actually, we discussed it last year that it was just to expect it now.
Yeah.
Our current contract with Duxbury for emergency dispatch services, which includes police, fire, and EMS, is due to expire in September, and that was a 5-year deal. So in essence, we've got a free service for the last 5 years. Duxbury's been able to gain some grant money because Plympton was the first town in. Now, since we joined them, I'm sure most of you are aware that Halifax joined us. So it's Duxbury, Plympton, and Halifax. Now the town of Rochester is due to come on board soon. There is some conversation in the future about other towns joining it, possibly Hanson. But, you know, knowing that the contract was coming due, I spoke with the fire chief over there, and we have to start negotiating it. And we were warned 5 years ago that at some point we'd probably have to pay something. And I asked him, where are we at on that? And he said, probably about $50,000. So
Okay.
that's why I think you folks know that I won't give up $50,000 easy when we're negotiating this contract. If I can save us any money, if I can get it for half that, I absolutely will. This is not just a police thing, it's for police, fire, and EMS. And I just felt more comfortable where I was the lead person through all of the regional dispatch. I just figured that, and I was the lead person negotiating the last contract, that I would put this into my budget.
Yeah, I don't remember if it came up last week or not, but I had spoken to Warren about it, and he mentioned it was, you know, obviously for the whole.
Right. In today's day and age, just the service we got over last weekend was worth that alone, I gotta tell you. With the hundreds of trees down, you know, it used to be, Steve, in the
Yeah.
business, hundreds of, I won't say hundreds of wires, dozens and dozens of trees down, dozens and dozens of wire. We had a
That
fatality.
was just my
I'd
house.
say there's probably hundreds of trees down in
Yeah.
town. That would be really exaggerating.
I don't think so either.
I took Liz for a
No.
tour the other day, it looked like we had bombs going off all over town.
We woke
Oh,
up Saturday
yeah,
morning
it
and there
was
was a
awful.
tree at this end of our street and a tree at this end of our street. No way out of our street.
Yeah.
It's
Did
that's
Did you have
business.
cable television though? See if you lose cable, then it's all over.
As soon as I lose power, I lose cable. 'Cause
Yeah.
I have a standby generator. The power comes back on from the generator, but it won't run the cable.
Yeah.
You need to get one of those
I need to-
on-ear antennas.
I need to put my antenna up on my chimney,
Mhm.
run it down the spare flue into the cellar and over to my TV, and then get Hulu, because my Fios stayed.
Did it really?
Yeah. Of course, you gotta live on Brick Street to get Fios.
Right.
Yeah.
So should we just go through the lines quickly?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything,
No.
we just, so you'll know next year, we did put the dispatch in as a separate line, we created it as a separate line.
That's what I expected.
Yeah, so you'll see that going
I
forward.
will say that I had this done back in, I think, December. So there is minor change. I was expecting wage and personnel to come back at 2%,
Right,
and
so we need to adjust your clerical, right?
in my salary at 2.5, because mine is based on,
If you say so.
Personnel.
yeah.
Okay. Alright, so we'll make those changes. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Same
pretty
deal on the vehicles with,
Everything,
For the
your
warrant.
first year lease payment.
And police department, not a big increase, but
yeah, let's
keep
go,
the police
let's
department line.
take a look at
The
that.
department line, no, I think just 2%.
No, that's 3 point something, I think.
Okay. Making me go back and forth now.
All right.
3.3.
Right. It's been a while since I prepared
That
this, so I
was
have
line
to,
565.
565 police department, it's not
Yeah.
salaries.
let's see. That's what it was. It's an increase in Semlec dues. Semlec dues went from, Semlec dues is increasing by $1,000. So that went, it's gonna go from 32 to 42, 42.40 with the 2% on that. So it's Some like dues is going up. Some like, for those of you that don't know, is the Southeastern Mass Law Enforcement Council. We're a member agency, we pay yearly dues. Now, our yearly dues, it's a sliding dues, depends upon how many members we have assigned. The more members you have assigned, the less you pay for dues. I think the highest dues in some communities, for example, Fall River has no members, I think they're paying $10,000 a year. We pay $2,000 a year. With that, we have the SWAT team, as soon as I need them and call them. The search and rescue team, as soon as I need them and call them. A motorcycle, police motorcycle team, as soon as I need it. And it goes on with the dive team, and they're starting on a bicycle team. They have detective team. They're starting a school resource officer team. So these are all little things, fingers crossed, we won't have to take advantage of, but we do participate, and that's what the dues is, and that's what the increase was.
Okay, so is that further down, a little bit further?
That was, that's this one actually, 565. It's not broken out.
Oh, what's underneath there isn't, that's police expenses.
I
isn't
think I
it?
had it broken out.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Page.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is all
Yeah.
police expenses.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. That is down a little bit further.
There it is.
Yep, 27
Yeah.
percent.
That's it.
You know, typically I would try to absorb something like that, but that $1,000 is,
Yeah.
yeah.
That, I mean, everything looks good to me.
How many times have I said, I know I live and die on how well I work my budget? And,
Didn't realize this job was mainly accounting.
it's significant, it's not just counting, we're on, so I can't say a lot of things personnel-wise. It's just a lot of things, and accounting's one of them. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's the vehicle, that's the cruiser lease payment schedule, so, the ones in yellow are lease payments. Now, the first year lease payments, which would be for the top one, that's the new car in fiscal 19. The other ones are built into the vehicle's budget. So after 3 years, we own the car. Sometimes we get 5, maybe 6 years, depending upon the mileage. And then they're turned in or they're reused in the town. And when we turn them in, we don't get a lot, but to get rid of them too, it costs a lot. With procurement, there's a certain way to do it. So we just can't, to auction it off, we're gonna almost have to pay to advertise as much as we're gonna get.
Right.
So a lot of times we just either trade them in with the new car, or if the town needs a new one, we'll switch it off with that.
And I assume you gave this to this current, the warrant article, I assume you turned that into
Yes.
to this.
I will mention on my vehicles, and it doesn't go noticed, I have a vehicle on there, the assessors. They have one of our old Chief's car from 2007 that it's still in my fleet. We don't use it. It's parked across the parking lot. And you guys need it for official business. No, it's there. It's an official town car. I am going to try to get it out of my fleet. At some point, I'll speak with the town administrator to do something with that. But we've been paying for the fuel in that and the maintenance in that. And
I mean, I think just for transparency, it would be nice to have those things. You know, your budget represents your vehicles only, and
Right.
we account for the others somehow, you know, however we have to, but. I
we
think
had
that'd
an
be
issue
helpful.
where there were a couple of cars and there was issues with sharing them, so we knew we were gonna get rid of this one. We knew that it really wasn't worth much. We kept it, we took all the police equipment out, we put a blue municipal plate on it, and it's been there. And probably when we get rid of the one cruiser, we might just change it
Rotate,
over with that. So the town has something, so it's not just the council. If someone's in a pension, they need it, it's there.
Yep.
I don't mind, but I'd like to see it on someone else's budget someday.
So this number will need to change. We will go ahead and make that update to add the 2.5%, and we'll change your salary as well.
Yes, sir.
So we'll take care of that for you.
And I just based it, like I said, on 2%. I was surprised to see
Yep.
wage and personnel went 2.5.
Yep. And you had mentioned previously something about Was it an opioid thing you wanted to perhaps propose?
We are knee deep in that. That really hasn't come in. In fact, they just talked about it in my town report. We're heavily involved in, it's grown countywide. It was known as Plymouth County Outreach, and we were one of the initiating members. Plymouth, Plympton, Carver, Kingston's jumped on board. And then you had what was called EB Hope, which was East Bridgewater, and then it went out to the three Bridgewaters. Now all Plymouth County is involved in. It's opioid outreach. I'm able to support that. One of my sergeants is the lead officer for my department, Sergeant Terry, and he attends at least one monthly meeting at the drop-in center. And those monthly meetings encourage family members or anyone that needs services to come in. What this program can do is it can guarantee a bed and treatment for anyone that wants it. This program also guarantees that anyone in our community that suffers from something like this, if they have an overdose or if they have an issue in the family, we will show up between 24 and 48 hours later with a police officer, social worker, and a clinician with information to provide to the residents things they can do to get into a treatment program. And it's been very successful. This is something that's like the DEER program. You never know how many lives you're going to save, but we've had some success. That coupled with our Narcan program, and this is, if we save someone, bring them back with Narcan, our office is knocking on the door the next morning if they're released from the hospital with treatment options. Now, another portion of that is if we have someone that overdoses twice in a town, the police department will take action. We'll go to court, and we will swear out an affidavit to get that person committed for treatment. So if we bring them back 2 times with Narcan, we're going to have the courts force them into treatments. This is out of good conscience and good practice. We'll save lives, I hope. We have seen our opioid overdoses go down in the last probably year. We got killed a year before. That could be 2 reasons. Since we're in this this county-wide program, it also includes a database. So if a resident from Plympton overdoses in Rockland, we're going to find out about it the next day. But we also find out that sometimes we've lost someone to an overdose in that other community.
Sure.
And we've only had probably 6 or 7 Narcan saves. Most of them were frequent flyers, the same 1, 2, and 3 times. And that was just a year ago. That's gone way down right now. It's fingers crossed.
But you don't need any more additional funding?
No,
okay. 'Cause I know at one point you thought you might.
Well, what has happened is since we joined forces, and it's gotten a little big, there has been grant money made available, and that's how we just notified today that someone is paying the grant for this database, and it's, I don't know, $13,000 or $14,000. And that's good, and there is some grant money. One of the chiefs, Chief Allen from East Bridgewater, is actually with the White House. He's just one of the lead people in the state on this opioid issue.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Good memory. Nate, good memory.
Any questions for the chief? Chief, I'm sorry. Do you know everybody around the table?
I think
I know.
He knows me,
Yeah.
Lisa Hart.
I know.
and I know
you
you.
Catherine Shepherd.
Okay.
Catherine, nice to meet you.
I apologize.
No, Steve,
Yeah, you
we
bet.
shagged a lot of calls together. I met you last year.
And Eric.
Eric Hart, that's it. Steve and I, Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna, we did a lot of work together.
Yes.
I'll cover up the
On
microphone
different-
if you want to keep.
In different colors, the red and the blue.
I gotta remember that we're being taped.
We are-
so
we are
can't let things slip.
I need to remember it myself
Yeah, I know.
sometimes. So, all right. Any questions for the chief? I think I already asked that.
The new
Alright.
building that's not part of your budget, is it?
No, it's not.
It's totally separate.
And I'm intimately involved with that, only as an advisor. I'm not on the committee. But I can't tell you how excited. I think everyone here knows how long we've worked for this.
I'm in the barber shop up in Halifax, and they're asking, hey, how's the police station come?
Geez, they don't ask me when I go there.
You know, Johns?
Yeah, no, they didn't ask me.
I'm taking your picture and let them know who
Don't know.
you are.
No, they don't need to know who I am.
I think it was one of the residents from here. It was actually at the same time.
We're making progress. It's my understanding you might see groundbreaking out there within the next month.
Good.
Yeah, I'm getting excited.
Exciting stuff.
So are we,
Yeah,
because
it really is.
you promised us a room.
Well, it would be a community room.
No.
Because we have a
That's not-
finance committee meeting.
That's not how I remember it, Chief.
And we can use my office. My office isn't gonna be this big now.
It's not.
All right, sir, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, guys. You take it easy on me again. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to talk to you for a
Okay.
sec.
And if Ethan's still out there, could you send him in, please?
He should have some company with him. There is a distinct advantage to where I live. The power comes from Plympton Sand and Gravel, comes right out of there, and I'm on that first leg. So I had my power back Saturday afternoon.
Oh, you are lucky.
But if they don't do that leg, then they can't do the next and the next and the next.
Sure.
There's two drops in town. One is there and one is on Spring Street, where it comes down.
Well, supposedly everybody's got it back now.
The last thing I saw on
Yeah,
Facebook.
because I think we were about the last.
Yeah.
My 16 kW, which runs on propane, ran me about $4,000 installed.
So they had-
Maybe it was 4,500 with the installation.
We've got a small one, but we're looking to get something
Yeah,
a little bit better.
and I had to dig my own trench for the propane line.
I lucked out. I drove into Lowe's in West Bridgewater on Sunday morning.
Got the last
They were
one.
just well. It's funny because I dropped Janet off at she was working, so I dropped her off at the hospital at 7, and I went to Donkey's parking lot to tap into their Wi-Fi, and I'm doing all this research online, looking at tractorsupply.com, Lowe's.com, HomeDepot.com, trying to see if anybody had one. Tractor Supply in Taunton had one. So anyway, on the way home, I went by Westgate Mall. Their Lowe's was closed because they didn't have any power. So I jumped on 24 and I figured, oh, what the heck, I'll jump off at West Bridgewater. And I did that. I pulled into the parking lot and I saw 3 people walking out the door with generators on their carts. This is like 2 minutes after they opened. And I said, yeah, it's just going to be my luck. I'll get there and they'll say, oh, sorry, just sold the last one.
And then there are people running around looking for gasoline
Yeah.
to fill them up.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
delivery yesterday of propane. I finally learned how to read the gauge on the
Well,
tank.
then I found out I ran out of oil too. Because we have a wood stove, so we don't use the heat. So I had somehow run out of oil and not
Yeah, hot
realized it.
water and
so, I
all
had,
that, yeah.
so I had power to get my water, but then I couldn't have any hot water. So, townspeople, you sure you want me running your finances? Can you go see if Ethan is still
Yeah.
at the house?
Oh, that's right, she's talking.
Everything was great at my house until there was one pine tree that Eversource had marked last summer
Yeah.
to come out,
Yeah.
and it didn't, and it just uprooted because it would be 4 inches of rain and then
Well,
the wind.
we had one of those that, it was a split trunk,
Uh,
and so half of it came off,
yeah,
and it just took out the lines.
you got a chainsaw?
Took out I do.
Okay, I got
Took
it.
out the wires between my driveway and my neighbor's driveway, so I couldn't take a right out of the driveway. And then to the left, there were 2 other trees that had fallen down, so I was kind of trapped in my driveway for a little while.
I said to Chris, I was like, I always, when people always rush out to get bread and milk, I'm always like, that's so crazy because, you can always get out and get your bread and milk.
No.
And then we woke up Saturday morning, a tree at either end of the street. I looked at him and said, guess we should have got the bread and milk.
That's true. Oh, we used to be we still are, incredibly busy the 2 days before a storm. Yeah. bread, milk, prescriptions.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you need a 16-month supply of your blood pressure medication. If you had it filled last week.
A friend of mine, her daughter worked at a supermarket, and she said she came home before one of these big storms, like after working the day before, and she was exhausted.
Oh, it's nuts. It's
And
nuts.
she said, Mom, but I don't understand why all these people for these big storms who know they're going to lose the power all have to buy ice cream.
Yeah, well,
Everybody buys ice
it's
cream.
true. It's true.
You know who else was doing a big business right before? The liquor stores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was driving to my mom's house in Hanover, and I was driving down
I went up to
139.
the office and
In
grabbed
the liquor store, it had no power, but the door was open, and they were letting in people. They must have just been doing cash-only business
Yeah.
or something. Either that, people were looting. I don't know.
Oh, that was the first thing I saw on Facebook.
Yeah, the liquor store was open.
Yeah, the liquor store's open center town.
So, anyway,
Bring cash.
she's waiting for other people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
It's cool. Duxbury Library has all those games now that they run. Kind of cool if you're not sure if you like a game or want something.
That's when things get real bad. I consult with my son-in-law, who was an arborist.
Mm.
How the piglets doing?
They're good.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
I got to drift over that way sometime. Check them out.
Yep. They didn't know that we lost power, so that's fine.
They probably didn't care.
In their world, it didn't happen. Huh?
Well, we had to switch out the fencer to be solar, so
Oh,
Uh-huh.
because they will eventually figure out that there's no power. But
See, the hounds never figured out that the invisible fence
Fence was
wasn't.
down.
Of course, this time of year, they don't move from the stove anyway.
Yeah.
They camp down in front of the wood stove.
I used to do wood stove, but I don't. And my wood stove had a blower on it, so when I'd lose power, I'm down there taking the blower off and opening up these vent things underneath so that the air would come up through and circulate. Pain. Now I just.
So the question I had about this one was they submitted a merit
Down
increase
South
for an
Town.
associate, for an employee
At
who
the
just
mill
started
down there.
2
Come
months
on, get
ago.
'em.
yeah,
Pick 'em up, pick 'em, take 'em
So-
back. That's all
I
right.
don't think that.
I don't think that flies.
No, I think they have to be there a year.
At least a
before.
year, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So they started in January, so they will be there 6 months before. So,
Now we could be said no when that goes to whoever that goes to, but as far as I know, they're supposed to be there a year before.
First step?
yeah, you don't get it.
No, you have to be there a year.
To get the merit
Yeah.
portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the step. Yeah, the step increase.
Right. Come on in. Just watch your step.
Did you come through Halifax, Dick?
Hmm?
Did you come through Halifax?
No. It came West Street.
Yeah, a couple chairs here. There's one on the other side. I don't know how many.
I guess the river's coming up onto
Oh, we got
the
three.
road there.
You might need
We've got another
come
chair
around
in over
behind me
here.
here.
Hi, everyone.
Well, there's-
Yeah, there's a stool if you want to tuck in there.
Thank you.
You gonna give the old guy
Don't
the
lean
chair,
forward.
right?
Gone.
Good. Yourself?
Good.
See you last week you were on vacation? Couple times?
Okay, so just in case we don't know anybody, I'm Nate. I'm the chairman of the finance committee.
Catherine Shepard.
We all know you.
Jocelyn Anderson.
Ethan Stiles.
Dick Morville.
Eric Hart.
Lisa Hart.
Wendy Jones.
Alrighty, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
So I think we have your paperwork up here. If you want to just kind of talk us through this exorbitant request that you have here for $3.
Yes, I suppose that's to signify that we are town employees.
You know, years ago, we used to get paid.
Did you?
Yeah.
We didn't during my tenure.
No,
No.
long before that.
9 or 7, it went like from 900 to 700.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to
that
get
right? Yeah.
$900 a year.
No kidding.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
How'd you screw that up?
It was you guys.
Don't look at me.
You were begging us. The town is underwater. Yeah.
Smart people. Alrighty, so obviously that one's gonna go through. So the next is the, line 165, the assistant.
I can step out if you want to discuss.
Oh, we don't have a problem talking about you in front of you.
Yeah, it's for you guys.
All right, so, let me speak to this one. That,
If you're more comfortable stepping out, you can.
Now we currently budgeted our assistant assessor for 22 hours. Her predecessor could only do 18 and a half hours because she was restricted due to her retiree status, but Ms. Jones doesn't have that impediment, and you can see that the hourly rate is lower than her predecessor, and we noted here where she's been approved for the increases, 2.5% and 2%. And the 2 additional hours we budgeted so that she can attend coursework and continuing education, some of which is required to obtain her MALO certificate, which we do anticipate that should be done. When you anticipate that being completed by, Wendy?
They don't offer the classes regularly, so it can take a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But that's
can
what-
I understand it? So 2 hours a week. So it's how many hours is she being paid?
22.
Yes, 22 plus 2 would be 20. Would be paid for 24. Now
So it's 24 hours a week.
yes. Now she's paid at an hourly rate, so that means she actually has to work those hours to be paid them. She's not. In previous years, we had our assistant assessor at salary, but we had to change that due to the retiree status of Deb Stewart. But so now the position is an hourly position. So obviously, if the work is if she's being paid for work, or for
So you're looking for 24 hours a week,
Mhm.
which will include if she does the schooling, if there's
Yes.
classes offered to do
Yes.
that, and if not, will work the 24 hours.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's approximately.
She's already enrolled in like a class this month, so there is
Okay.
definitely coursework going on.
But that's roughly a 25% increase in hours. So is there a need for 25% more hours?
It's something that we've wanted for the past like 3-ish years, especially with Cisco and the revaluation process.
But what's changed this year versus last year to require 25% more hours?
It's not really a year-to-year thing. It's just us getting around to asking for it and us, finding out there's an actual need. Like as far as being on the board, like, you may not hear like right away that I'm working more hours, especially where it was salaried. So now we're finding out the amount of hours worked isn't really the amount that we need.
So was stuff not getting done last year that you expect will get done this year? I'm having a hard time understanding it, I'm sorry.
To some extent, I think we have about 700 houses in town, and we have to evaluate them every 7 years, and so that requires the assistant assessor or the assessor's clerk to go out and visit those homes, knock on doors, leave calling cards, make scheduling arrangements if the owner is so willing, and the predecessors has expressed a concern of not falling behind because of the reevaluation, which will be coming up. It used to be 3 years, I think it's going to be turning to 5. So anyway, I do get a sense that that's part of the reason for the hourly increase, to make sure the office does not fall behind and in fact catch up on any backlog it has with the annual inspection process.
We just feel like every year we're riding the line between the deadline with the state as far as meeting that, and it's really the only thing's restricting it is hours. So we'd like to kind of get the work done ahead of time so that it doesn't always come down to the last
I
minute.
completely support that,
Yeah.
but 25% is a fairly large increase.
What you should understand is that the assessor's office is undergoing a total kind of renewal of its staff, okay? We have 2 new people. We have more functions that we need to attend to
Okay.
than we have in the past. Okay? should recognize that there is a whole new situation going on in the assessor's office at this point.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking you to explain to me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether,
A new situation is very vague.
right.
I know that,
I know we have a new employee.
you
Welcome.
wouldn't find the assistant assessor in there on a Wednesday
Okay.
before.
What's that mean?
We've tried to kind of gear the office towards, not waiting for those deadlines, because we came very close this past fall in not meeting the deadlines, and it's a serious kind of infraction with the state. We're trying to get ahead on the work to be able to have a comfortable buffer with the deadline. So if, the tax collector or the accountant need to work with us on something, it's not somebody staying till 10 o'clock at night trying to
Okay.
fix it.
Now, I'd also like to mention that when her predecessor was on salary, that she did, there was an issue with how many hours she worked, how many hours she actually worked versus how many she actually billed. And I think especially when it came down to the annual evaluation period, that she did work more hours off the books than she actually put in. And I think it did contribute to a sense of being undervalued, and especially if you compare it to some of the other department heads in the town, that that there's a sense of that maybe the assistant assessor who essentially runs the day-to-day operations of the assessors department did feel undervalued and not paid according to her skill and experience, which would suggest. So I think to some extent this might be sort of trying to ensure that we have a competitive compensation in place to retain talented individuals.
Okay. I just know that we're going to have to explain it to the town meeting floor of why we're asking for a 17% increase.
Well,
And so-
there is one other thing that,
I'll bring it up if you don't.
Yeah.
So the other question that we had, and we need to get clarification on this, but we just want you to be aware, we do not feel that a 2% merit increase can be requested until the employee has been on the books for at least a year. So where you started in January, we don't think that you will be eligible for an increase until fiscal 20. And I apologize if that's news to you.
the
but
2.5%, yes, but no.
2.5%, absolutely,
increase.
but the step increase would not kick in until
And that
the
would be-
following year.
That would be even with like coursework and things like that. We wouldn't be able to do like an off schedule review or anything like that.
No, not to my knowledge.
It's also in recognition of her previous service with the assessor's office and the level of experience that she's brought to the position currently.
I assume that was negotiated as part of the initial starting salary.
Well,
I think it just is. It's not that we don't want it. It's just
Sure.
the
Right,
way
we're not,
it is.
it's absolutely,
But-
it's certainly nothing personal, it's just, rules is
And we're gonna look
rules.
for some more clarification on
Okay,
it.
great.
But we
Yeah.
believe that step increases, you have to be here a year before the first step increase goes
Okay.
into effect.
Yeah, definitely
into effect.
get back to us on that because we'd be open to providing like whatever documentation on the coursework and things like that.
I don't,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Thanks.
Moving on, support staff.
Do you want me to speak to that, or do you want to?
Sure.
Okay. Well, Allison Mary is the administrative assistant. There's only two people in the office, myself, the assistant assessor, and the administrative assistant. I had left, and she was hired. She quickly obtained Course 101 with the Department of Revenue, and then Course 200, which is the very first stepping stone to starting your coursework to be an assessor, but also to get up to speed on how the methodology and how everything works. So she essentially has the same hourly as I did when I left, when I had those same qualifications. So she has been very instrumental in when the previous assessor vacated the office during a very critical time for the assessors for the town of Plympton, she stepped into a totally different role, and with the guidance of DOR, which I'm pretty sure Dick can speak to, but she was pretty amazing, actually. in handling
7
all
weeks,
that.
she kept that office going, totally. And she was the contact person with the other departments in the town, like the treasurer and the town accountant and so forth. She made an amazing contribution for all the amount of knowledge that she has.
Can I, just because, again, I think it's just a technical thing, I think that this has been going on through the whole town hall. We've got a lot of people here who've worked a lot of years and they could never make any headway. They got their 2% increase every year, but they never made any headway. And that's why last year it was put in place that you would get the cost of living increase, which this year is 2.5%, plus up to a 2% step increase a year. I don't think that the 5%, I think we could do the 4.5 easily,
I don't
without
think
any question.
she started in August, so it's the same situation.
I mean,
So
we do.
she's gotta be there a year.
We have the supporting like completed classes, so like if there
I know,
is any.
but I don't think that, and again, we'll talk to Bob, we'll talk to whoever selectman or whoever the powers to be would be, but I don't think that, I think it's just a technical thing, is that, like I said, there are a lot of positions here where people have worked hard and done extra and took classes and stuff and could never catch up, and that's why they enacted this.
It's setting
These
a
rules
dangerous
last year.
precedent, really. I mean, we would love to be able to give raises whenever or the committees feel they're warranted, and everybody would like to make more money, let's face it. But we need to have some sort of structure in place.
Do these numbers still fall within her pay range too?
I believe so.
Yes, yep, they do.
Okay, I mean, like I said.
So so her current rate is 1944 and the 2053 is the proposed rate, is that correct?
Proposed,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a 1 hour increase because she is still taking classes as well.
And so that hour will go away when she's through with classes, or how does that
It
work?
it could just be banked, and if there is coursework that she needs to take, it would be there. I mean, for instance, I'm taking a class, it's 3 weekends, all day, each day, so you can't, you kind of have to bank the hours in order
So
to
you're not
make it work.
It's not that you're really getting paid for taking. You're not really getting an extra hour for coursework. You're getting an extra hour, and then not being paid for your classes.
Yeah, I'm just asking what happened. So it's an increase to the budget.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be a permanent increase to the budget. That's what I'm asking.
Right.
To address your earlier question about kind of like what has changed, something that's definitely changed that seems consistent is that Cisco is taking us to ATB every year, and I could say that alone has put 20 hours for the year into that position, if not much more. That's a full day at court and all the preparation leading up to it, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop doing that anytime soon, and that's something that's new in the last couple of years, so. And that's our department deals with that.
Okay, but that's 20 hours a year versus a request for 200 hours a year.
Or just give it, I just thought of it now,
No,
so I wanted to give it to you.
and that's valid, and that's very helpful. Thank you. Expenses.
Basically, we're not looking for an increase in the expenses. Oops, I see it didn't make it through on
Yeah,
my copy.
It's
Yeah.
18.
there.
It's the same. It looks like it's
Yeah.
the same as last year.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Then I don't think we have any. And then there was. This is an additional request, and I'm not sure who wants to.
So, for this, we have a gentleman who's been finding unnamed parcels for us, creating the revenue stream for the town. We'd like to keep it going, we'd like to offer him the ability to work more hours, and with that, he would need to be paid. He's only allowed so many hours under the work program.
Senior work on
He just has that depth of kind of town map knowledge that, you know, for what it costs, it's really a big, huge payoff for us as far as being able to find that revenue as opposed to leaving.
So where did that $15 an hour, does that slot into the wage and personnel schedule somewhere? And where'd you pull that number out?
This number is that what he gets paid for the work off program?
No.
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 Okay.
It's just a set amount per hours.
So
Did
the,
you just sounded like a good number, or what?
Well, you know, for essentially what he's doing, mostly title research, $15 an hour seems to be a reasonable rate for that kind of.
Again, we have to stay within some sort of guidelines, and there's a wage and personnel salary structure that you've got to slot. If you're asking to create a new position, you've got to slot that position.
Okay, yeah.
somewhere.
So we
He's
just
a
came up with
consultant.
that, yeah.
I mean, that's a consultant.
Okay, so then that's totally different.
We just want him to be a temporary consultant. This man has unique knowledge.
I'm not
Yeah,
arguing
no,
any
no,
of that
yeah,
part.
no, again, these are just, they're
We-
not,
yeah,
these are just sort of a technical
we
issue, you know,
definitely didn't
things
go
that.
through
Well,
yeah,
a chart
and-
to get to that
example,
number.
he-
So
And actually, in order to create a position, a new position, that has to go through wage and personnel too.
Right.
You can't just create a position.
we'd like to kind of like add it into like the
Like-
administrative side of the
like a
office.
clerk, another
Yeah.
clerk.
Yeah.
Right.
So then what you really should need to check is the wage and personnel clerk range, because I believe a clerk has to start at the low, when you hire somebody, they have to start at the low end of
Okay.
the range.
Well, what about as an independent I mean, he's really functioning more as an independent contractor.
So then are you just looking for a certain number of hours?
Yes.
Well, and I
How
guess
many?
then my next natural question is,
Okay.
if you're going to be working an extra 4 hours a week and the other person's going to be working an extra hour a week, why can't those 5 hours go to offset what you're asking him to do?
And-
And I recognize that there's a different knowledge base.
And
It is, and,
some of it will, but let me give you an example. He's, through Al Votrino's efforts, we've been able to put 112 acres back on the tax rolls in this past year.
Mhm.
That's significant.
I agree.
And he has unique knowledge of this town, okay? He worked with Mr. Webby as a surveyor for many, many years. He just has up in his head, he's got knowledge of all of these parcels that you wouldn't believe. He knows the old families, he knows the old deeds. You know, he's just a unique contributor to this office.
And there are
Yeah.
dozens like him in this town.
One of the things that
Well-
Al can do for us is a lot of land gets lost in probate. There's no online access for probate, easy access. He'll go down to the registry and take that time and come back with the information, the deeds, so that we can map it out and locate the owner unknown parcels.
And I would say it's a totally separate role than the additional hours that we're looking for these folks.
So you're looking for 100 hours for
For
next
Al.
year
Yes.
at $15 an hour, and then that job's done. That won't be next year.
I mean, if he grabs every unknown parcel, then yeah, it's
Yeah,
done.
it is done.
And if he
We
does-
just have so many out there, and it's every one that we miss each year is just revenue that kind of we're not getting as a town, and we want to pin that down and see who the owners of those properties are.
And he'll actually be working 150 hours? He's still gonna work 50 hours?
No, he can't do
towards his
both.
tax? He
I've already-
can't do both?
Yeah, I've researched that, he cannot do both. So he would be giving up the senior work off,
What's that, $500?
500,
So it's
50
really-
hours.
That's
We've
really
tracked
cost-
his hours, he works far more than he doesn't stop at 50, he
So-
keeps going.
So really the cost of the town's $1,000, not 1,500 by that standpoint.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think we understand the proposal. I'm not sure we can implement it the way you've proposed it. But we will check into that.
For example, we're hiring an attorney, we're hiring an appraiser, in Cisco. How is that different? How are hiring him as a consultant?
Where is that? Is there another line item for that?
It just falls under the Cisco, ATP, kind of, where they're, every year they're filing with the ATB. I think they have their own whole line item for the costs that it's costing the town to, go up against them on that.
What was that paid out of?
I think it's paid out of,
Something?
yeah,
Legal.
it's out of the legal fund. Yep.
Okay, I just so it's 5, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 7.5 hours a week you're looking for extra in the department. It's a lot. It's just, I mean, it's a lot to
It's,
ask where we're telling other departments.
we definitely have fallen kind of behind in tracking the job and everything that's involved in it. And it needs more hours than even 24, to be honest, where it's at right now. The amount of time that is being spent in the office with, new items like Cisco, it's just, that's what it's grown to be. And, on our part, for not, asking each year, but it's definitely something that we need to address going forward.
For example, he's done extensive research on the Atwood situation.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
You folks have anything else you'd like to present?
No, but if there is anything that you do find, like some way to, any of the requests, like, and you need backup documentation, just definitely let us know and we'll
We will
grab that.
check into the items that we mentioned. And,
Yeah, we're
we'll
pretty
let you know.
happy the way the office has been running with the new staff and everything. We just want to keep it that way and kind of keep the momentum going. And, grab the unknown parcels and be successful with Cisco. So we need all that stuff to do it.
Get more stuff on the tax.
Did Norton hear about this trouble?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank
All right,
you.
nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
I got it.
Thank you.
That's that cell phone. It's dragging me down.
Be careful on the wires over here.
Not that so much with the chair. Yeah, it's easy. Thank you.
I wish Lisa could give that presentation to get her input.
She left after the police. Excellent.
Was I wrong?
No, no. It's 8.5 hours a week.
Which is fine if you can justify it. I mean, if they said we're 3 years behind in our caseload, okay. Or whatever. And I think it sets a dangerous precedent to start paying volunteers. There's plenty of people out there that do wonderful things for this town because they love the
volunteer to do
town.
them. Right.
And if all of a sudden we start paying one, I don't know.
Veterans?
Yes, if she's here, please. Thank you.
Yep, she's right here. She heard us.
Hi there.
Hello.
Anywhere you like.
Anywhere you like.
I like the changing the tire, Steve.
Yes.
Steve will be running this portion of the meeting. Thank you for coming
But
in.
Mike,
Thank you.
I'm Nate, we've met before.
Nice.
This is
I'm Catherine.
Hi,
Nice
nice
to
to
meet
meet you.
Steve, we've talked before, yes.
Lisa Hart.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Eric, all right.
Hi. Roxanne Whitbeck.
So we have your proposal that you gave us
Okay.
up on the screen,
Yes.
and I don't know if you want to talk us through what you have. Let me see what line number 600. Let me get to that. So the first one that jumped out to me was there was a $10,000 decrease in the benefits.
In the benefits.
Yeah.
Well, I've lost a couple of clients due to age, unfortunately, and haven't picked any others up, so my budget has dropped.
Okay.
Right now, I have about a little bit more than 30,000 to carry me through the rest of the fiscal year. And my monthly expenses without like prescriptions and doctor bills and things like that, the fixed is gonna be like about almost 13,000. So, you know, that's still, I have a, I'm looking at having probably 15,000 left for this fiscal year. So next year, without having a crystal ball and knowing if I'm gonna pick up more clients or not,
Sure.
I just wanna go with what I know for sure. And
Okay.
I think I can drop it by 10,000 very easily.
Well, we certainly appreciate that.
We have a gift account, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with, but just gifts that people have made in donations to, you know, they lost a loved one or whatever, but we have a gift account here that we can help people buy fuel or prescription or glasses or whatever they might need at the time. So we have that as well, in addition to the veterans benefit,
Okay.
which is like a drop to 50. like I
Okay.
said.
And then the next page was the veterans' graves, which I believe last year we moved.
Did you guys move that to the selectmen or?
Maybe I have it wrong.
Or-
What's it say?
Memorial Day parade?
Looks like it was moved.
It moved into the Veterans Administration.
Into the administration.
From
What was
5
that,
to
the 500?
The
Went from 350 to 850.
Yeah, it was 5, yeah.
850, right.
So
So I
we-
think that was a combination of
Okay,
both the parades and we used to have $1,000, but I backed it down to 500 for like medallions for the graves and things like that, because I have a surplus of them in my office. And the flags, we can do for well under $350.
okay.
Medallions are plastic now,
Yes,
So we're gonna-
because people were stealing the
would steal
bronze.
them,
So that's
exactly.
0. The Veterans Graves has gone away, and it's all in Veteran Administration. now.
Okay,
Administration,
yep,
okay.
and that's
Yeah, that's
fine.
what I'm
So
missing, okay.
we can get rid of this year, probably get rid of that
Just
line.
that line.
Ah, yes.
So the graves went over to the administration side, that was my question as well, okay.
I'll probably leave it until it drops
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
So we'll just
That's fine.
track it.
okay.
Okay.
So,
Veterans agent. Oh, these are, okay, we're going backwards here. Okay, all right, my bad. I scanned them in wrong.
okay.
All right, so there's the 500 plus the 350 we
Plus-
talked about.
okay, right, so it
we're good.
ties
It all
together, okay,
adds up. All
yeah.
right, so then we just have the
Perfect.
veterans agent, and it looks like you submitted the same number as last year.
Yep, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
There's been a
It's
2.5%
2.5%.
cost of living increase.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah,
you
I-
can put yourself in for 2.5%.
Yeah.
I just sign off on what they tell me.
Yeah,
Wage and Personnel Board approved 2.5%.
That's
So-
great,
so we'll
thank
make
you.
that adjustment here.
It's, the veterans line, the veterans line item is just such a great thing for every town because it's 75% that you get back from the state. It's a win-win for the town. If you've got an agent that's doing the work for you, you're gonna get that 75% every year, so it's just,
Well, that's why you should take your 2.5%.
it's a win-win, and, it's just it's a good thing to have to just put out there to the public too, because everyone's about veterans, and it's a good.
Sure.
Not 48 years ago.
I know, we're making that right though, we're making it right now.
Well, thank you.
Thank you guys.
For all your hard work. and for-
It's a great
doing
little
what you
town, I
do.
love it.
Thank you.
And just so you guys know, I make myself available to the veterans 24/7. I have my cell phone on the door that they can call me. I work full-time in Plymouth, but it's very important to me that they know they can reach me anytime.
Great, well,
Excellent.
thank you for what you do. Anybody have any questions?
No, that was the easy one.
Yeah, I know, huh?
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Stay safe in the
Thank
storm,
you.
everybody.
Yeah, drive carefully.
Take care.
Is it snowing out there?
Not yet, just a lot of rain.
Always playing the easy ones at the end like that.
I tried,
Yeah,
but then
well,
people
that was
had to,
good.
people had to move stuff around on me, so. Well, next week we only have 3.
Yes.
Building department's the last one though. They sometimes have some challenging stuff. I don't know, do we wanna talk about anything that we heard tonight, or what do you think?
Well, I would definitely like to get Liz's input on the assessment
On the
department.
on the personnel, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
Um,
Because that's not really our decision, we just,
yeah. I mean, right.
it is kind
Right.
of, but, you know, not really.
Well, financially, we have to see if we can fit into the budget, and
Yep.
but definitely think it's important to get her opinion on that. Town clerk, I mean, she's got everything totally
She spells it, right, yeah.
spelled out. It is what it is.
Yep.
Some
And
of the
she even includes the
percentages-
contingencies about, you know, if we have an election, this is what it'll cost, we may not have it. So-
Right, the early voters should
Yeah.
take that out,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
But we will have it in November for the
Correct.
state election.
for the state election,
Just for the
right,
primary, she's
statewide.
not sure
Right,
for you.
primary,
Yeah.
she's not sure about.
It was great using it.
And the police chief too, you know, telling her if he can get that number down as far as dispatch, he'll do what he can to get it down and let us know.
Yeah, so really the only things we have still outstanding, we have the, we'll hear this next week. I mean, I know they were still negotiating salaries with the surveyor for Public Works. Everything else is kind of in line. And the only other ones are minor stuff that doesn't necessarily change, so. Well, Council on Aging is next week. That's the only department we did not hear back from. So I put them in at the 2.5%.
Tree warden, did you get something from, have we got anything from him, or you just put him in his level and took his 2.5%?
Where is he, do you know?
Lives down on Brook Street.
So does he have 5s too?
Public Works.
I don't know.
must be under- Yeah, there he is.
They
Oh, yeah.
just,
No,
He
it's,
they
must
called
put
me up
it's
something
one
black,
day
he put
and
something
said,
in.
Yeah.
"You're gonna
Oh,
have
that's good.
fails." I said, "What's it gonna cost
Maybe
me?"
a
He
little
said,
bit of
"Same
an
thing you're paying now,
increase.
nothing."
That's fair.
Good to be a
Percent doesn't have an
retiree from
increase in,
Verizon.
Yeah, I
5
guess so.
years.
Yeah, okay, so he put it in as 2%, I bumped that up to 2.5, so,
Okay.
yep. Yep, so.
Perfect.
And I'm putting something like Hulu.
Animal inspector, that's all levels.
He submitted it that way.
Okay.
Did he?
So there you go.
Excellent.
Fence viewer.
If there's nothing else, we have no new business other than what we already discussed on the Silver Lake School. Thank you again, Steve, for attending. Did you leave the paperwork that you took from there? The school paperwork? Thank you.
You wanted that?
Somebody should probably hold on to it.
Yeah.
We'll put it in our binder.
Put it in our binder. There's a, didn't I bring back the other time a school
Yeah.
department binder?
Yeah, you did. Yep, thank you. All right, so if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 7:35. We're done, thank you.